It's time to turn your life-challenging moments into life-changing messages. Welcome to the Power Lift Stories podcast, where we are interviewing women whose stories will leave you lifted up, fired up, and fueled up with hope, courage, and inspiration. We want to thank our sponsor, Powerful Journey, who helps women tell their stories, write their books, and building a profitable brand around both. Join the masterclass or the Speakers Academy at phyllisjenkins.com. That is PHYLLISJENKINS.com. Now here's your host, Phyllis Jenkins.
I believe that you can turn your life-challenging moments into a life-changing message, a message of hope, a message of inspiration, a message of encouragement that will go out and help others to flourish on their journey. Welcome to the Power Lift Stories podcast. And I am thrilled to have today my new friend, Marianne Renner. Marianne, welcome.
Thank you, Phyllis. I am overjoyed to be here with you. You are so much light in the world, and it just feels so great to be here. So thanks for having me.
Oh, so happy to have you. And let me just share just a brief bio of Marianne. She's doing so much, but let me just share some of what she's doing and who she is, and you'll get to find out more about her as we move forward in our interview. Marianne is a confidence builder. I could stop right there. How great is that? A confidence builder. She has helped thousands of leaders develop their confidence to overcome fears, doubts, and limiting beliefs that keep them from becoming all that they were meant to become. As a result of this, Marianne's clients have tripled their salaries, landed their dream jobs, launched new businesses, and found more meaning and purpose in their work. She is a transitional leadership coach, a speaker, and a two-time author. Her first book, Chaos to Clarity Success Journal, and her second book, which I have right here, is Stop Thinking Like an Employee and From Surviving to Thriving, which we'll hear more about this today and how you can get your hands on a copy of this great book. Marianne understands the pain and the reward of persevering through obstacles. Wait until you hear her amazing story. You'll see why this is so much a part of her life. She is a two-time business owner and a previous founder of a youth empowerment program. In 1998, Marianne coached two dance teams to become national Junior Olympics gold medal champions. How great is that? And listen at this. Marianne herself is a former bodybuilding champion a few years back. Marianne, when I saw that, I was like, you go, girl. So again, welcome, welcome, welcome. And just want to get this interview started by asking, if you were to give your life-changing message a title, what would that message be and why?
If I were to give my life-changing message a title, it would be, are you ready for this?
I am ready.
Change your thoughts, change your story.
Mm-hmm.
That simple. Such
Wow.
a simple but powerful message.
And why would you title it that?
Because I really learned this the hard way. It took me some time, but I spent much of my life, probably more than half of my life caught up in chaos and depression and sadness, which led to alcohol abuse, and which led to more depression and more sadness. And it just kept going, and loneliness. And when I learned that I could change my thinking about my past, about my present, and about my future, everything else changed for me.
Amazing. And how true for most of us when we realize that we have those limiting beliefs and we change and go in a different direction, how our life changes. And that's part of your message. So share with our listeners your life challenging story.
Yeah, thanks, Phyllis. And I love that you talk a lot about story and storytelling. I actually used to be a newspaper reporter. That was my formal training in college. And it was really fun because I got to write stories about other people's lives, and it was so interesting. But what I didn't realize was that the biggest story of all that I was writing was the story of my own life.
Mm.
And we're all writing our life story, not with a pen and paper or a laptop today, but with every thought that goes through our mind. And, it took me a while to figure this out, but my story really began when I was 9 years old. I'm the youngest of 9 kids.
Wow.
I can't believe my mom and dad had 9 kids. Like, who does that? But they did. And my story began when I was 9 years old. I was standing in the living room, looking eye to eye with my father. He was sitting in a chair. I was standing, and he had his arms wrapped around me, looked into my eyes, and he said 3 words that forever changed my life. Mommy's in heaven. And in that moment, my story began. What's going to happen to me? Who's going to take care of me? And it was, what about me? What about me? What about me? Like what, there was all this chaos going on. And, being the youngest of 9, everybody was trying to figure out how this impacted them and what they were going to do. And I was this little 9-year-old girl just worrying about what's going to happen to me. And that was completely understandable at the time. But the thing about our stories is they may begin in a situation where they're warranted and necessary, and you're trying to use, all of your thinking as a coping mechanism, but they stay with you. If you repeat a thought enough times, it becomes a belief.
It does.
Right? A belief is just a thought that we think a whole bunch of times. And our brains take things, and this is why we're habit forming creatures. And so over and over, I developed this tape in my mind. What about me? What about me? And that became my story. And it grew into feelings of fear and sadness and loneliness and despair. Eventually, the doctors gave my story a name, depression. And I felt suicidal depression from the time I was 11 years old. Was the first time I remember lying in my bed, crying out to God to let me die in my sleep. I was 11. And that lasted until age 40. And then all along the way, there was, substance abuse, everything I could try to do and find to make the bad feelings go away. And I really was around that time. I had a suicide attempt at age 40. I'm pretty open about that because I just really think we've got to talk about these things. And for me, talk about the transformation and what's possible.
That's good.
And so when I really got serious about changing from what about me to, it was a beautiful, wonderful, amazing therapist who taught me what therapists call cognitive behavior therapy, what people in my industry call positive psychology. And so it's thinking differently, changing your thoughts, and then you can change your outcome by changing your thoughts. And that is absolutely what happened for me.
So, Marianne, listening to your story, I truly believe that there's someone today who is hearing your story and possibly sitting in a space of depression
Mhm.
and saying, oh my goodness, this message is for me. What else would you tell her or him
Yeah.
right now?
Mhm. So I would say the first thing is to get support and help. I had a team. I mean, it takes a team really to help somebody who is in such a deep, dark pit. I certainly had therapists and psychiatrists and family, lots of family and friends. So that's number one for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you're in that space. I mean, this is a message for somebody who's in that space. Like I'd wake up in the morning. I couldn't even make the bed in the morning. I couldn't even take out the garbage can. So you've got to have help to get just to where you feel like you can start to breathe again and feel energized, a little bit of energy again. And that's really the first step for that. And I'm not an expert in that. So that's why I would recommend that you find someone who is.
And I'm so happy that you said find someone who is, because there is help out there.
Mhm.
And that is indeed an important step, a very important step to take. So, Marianne, how did you see God revealing himself through your experience?
It's interesting. And this is more, my message is really for more, like I think of people who are out of the pit, but they just feel like they still have a long climb to go. And I remember in those early days where I was just starting to feel a little bit better, but still really like getting ready for work in the bathroom and putting on my makeup, tears running down my face, and, just having this constant conversation with God, like, I can't live like this anymore. I can't live like this anymore. And, why won't you do something, right, to help me? And one day I had this aha moment. I mean, this thought that welled up from the depths of my being so strong and clearly. Well, what if I could live like this?
Mm.
I believe God is a God of healing and miracles. But unless or until that happens, I can't live like this is a pretty limiting place to be. Because what does that mean? Like I die or I what? I mean, I can't live like this. So it dawned on me that it was a disempowering thought to say I can't live like this. And I thought about Paul in the Bible that had the thorn in his flesh and cried out to God, remove this. And God said, my grace is sufficient for you.
Yes.
And that, I mean, I certainly was familiar with that, but it just struck me in a way it never had before. And that moment of surrender, okay, this is where we are. It doesn't mean we're always going to be, but this is where we are. It's okay. It's okay. That was a big turning point for me. That was the first, there are several things, but that was probably the first big turning point. And the theme and concept of surrender has taken a whole new meaning in my life after that.
Wow, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
I want you to imagine that you just stood on a stage and you shared your life-changing message.
Mm-hmm.
There were thousands and thousands of women, and you've ended your message and they stood to their feet and gave you a standing ovation. But now it's time to go home. They are leaving, going to their vehicles. You're standing on stage, the curtain closes, and Marianne Renner turns to go to her vehicle. What are the 3 top lessons that you hope every woman walked away with from your life-changing message?
It's so hard to narrow it down to 3. Phyllis, that is like such a thought-provoking question. Like that is such a powerful question. I would share my sort of, it was like dominoes, what happened for me. And I would want them to know this, that moment of surrender or acceptance. I call it acceptance. Like that's the first step to anything. You've got to accept where you're at in order to be able to figure out the next step. So I would say, find acceptance. Don't waste all your energy on, I hate this. I hate this. I hate this. It's just unused energy or wasted energy. So acceptance. And then secondly is expectance. And expectance is waking up every morning and saying, I expect great things to happen today.
Yes.
That, because first acceptance, like you stop that resistant wasted energy. Expectance starts to bring that new enlightened, powerful energy. And then third, I would say, this is a tough one. Own your role.
Wow.
Like we all want to say, wait a minute. My mom died when I was 9 and it's not my fault. And it's not my fault. I just feel like this and I have depression and it's a, chemical imbalance and all of that. But one of the things I learned through the phenomenal experience I had going through Alcoholics Anonymous program is the 4th step. And I'll try to make this a short story, but it's kind of a funny story. The 4th step is doing that, owning your role. And I'll never forget, my sponsor said, Marianne, I want you to make a list of everyone who has ever wronged you.
Wow.
Oh, I like this. I love the 4th step because it was like, the big scroll, like I could write forever. Everybody, including God, had wronged me, and deserted me and this and that. And then I brought her my list and I was kind of proud. We sort of take pride in our victimness a little bit, I think. And I said, here you go. And she goes, great. Now in the next column, I want you to make a list of your role, the role that you played in every one of those situations.
Oh my goodness.
What? So of course I hated that part, but what I learned, it was one of the most life transforming messages. If I could identify, not a blame, not a guilt, is not about pointing fingers or saying who's right or wrong, but if I could find a role that I play in every situation, that means I have power to make different choices. So it's a very empowering step to take. So I love sharing with my clients the power of owning your role.
Wow, that is great. And in the moments that we have left, let's talk about your new book. Excellent. I have highlighted so much in this book, Marianne, but I want to start with where you say that an employee mindset focuses on what you get, and a consultant mindset focuses on what you give. Talk about that and then share some other great nuggets from your book.
Thanks, Phyllis. Absolutely. So remember when I said, my story was all about what's going to happen. What about me? What's going to happen to me? What about me? It's a mindset. And this book captures that mindset. We take it with us everywhere. And because a majority of the population is in the workplace, that is just where it shows up, but it shows up in every aspect of our life. And that is to say, the employee mindset, right, is what about me? What about me? And any leader who's ever been part of in the workplace knows what it feels like to have people coming to them all day long. Hey, I need time off. I need you to fix my computer. I need a raise. I need better benefits. I want. And it's all about me. I want to work on better projects. I want this. I want that. I want to be in a different team. So what happens is we create, without realizing it, we create that cycle of then you feel stuck if you don't get it, and kind of this victim mindset. So I say employee mindset. On the other side of that is what I call consultant mindset, which is all about giving. And we all know, as you give, like Phyllis, if I were to say, finish this sentence, as you give,
you receive or you get.
Yeah, absolutely. If you can shift your mindset to a place of service mindset, giving, adding value, the getting comes automatically. It is just the way it works. So you don't have to try. It happens, and it happens abundantly. And I learned this with my clients as they would come to me and say, I'm so frustrated about this, that, or the other. And I would teach them the principles in this book. So focus on adding value and looking, there are 5 simple steps on ways to give in the book. And one is giving your attention. That's number 1. You have to look for ways to be able to give. Like, where do I see an opportunity where I can add value? And then offer solutions. I share this story where once I went had a conversation with my leader a while back. And I just said, hey, what's keeping you up at night? How are you doing? What's going on with you? And she just started sharing and sharing and sharing. And I said, how can I help? And she said, you just did. Like, just to have somebody ask, how are you doing, was a huge thing. So it's very, very simple to implement these 5 steps, but it's a shift in your mindset and how you think.
That is so great. So great. We have a few minutes left. Just let them know what the other 4 are, and they'll have to purchase the book to get the meat on the bone from that.
Absolutely.
It's a great read. And as I mentioned, I have highlighted throughout this book.
Oh, wow. That means a lot coming from you. I appreciate that, Phyllis. So giving your attention, then giving the solution. So attention is identifying the problem. Solution is, providing a way to help. Number 3 is giving what I call the L factor, which is being likable. Because it doesn't matter how good you are. My clients will say, I work harder than everyone else and I'm so good, but then they show up a, crabby apple bottom. So you want to be likable, and people do business with people they like. And then number 4 is giving gratitude, giving thanks. Number 5 is giving your unique talents, gifts, and abilities. So it's identifying what makes you unique so that you can add value to the organization. And you can use this in the workplace. You can use this in your business, which, by the way, Phyllis, I know a lot of your podcast listeners have their own businesses. What happens if we've ever been in the workplace, we have this mindset and we bring it to our business.
Absolutely, we do.
Yeah. So this is so important for business owners. I see it every day. It is just, it's 90% of our culture is focused with this employee mindset, no matter where we're at. So
that's why I love this book so much, because I too had that employee mindset, and it took me a while. It took several years, Marianne, for me to transition over to an entrepreneurial mindset. So again, how can they get this book?
So you can get the book on Amazon. You can also get it on my website, which is mariannerenner.com. So if you go to my website, it's easier to remember, maybe mariannerenner.com, you can get the book and lots of like free good worksheets and stuff to go along with it.
Wonderful. And we will have all of that information in our show notes so that they will have exactly what they need to receive not only the book, but the free resources that she's given away. Marianne, this has been such a joy. Thank you so much for sharing today.
Thank you, Phyllis. The privilege has been all mine. Thank you.
I want to say to our Power Lift Stories community, thank you so much for supporting the Telling Our Stories Anthology, Volume 1. We sold 1,001 books in 16 days on Amazon, and it's all because of you and your support. We appreciate you so much. Now, perhaps you are sitting there and you are ready now to tell your story. Well, we have kicked off Volume 2, and it's not too late for you to come and join the Telling Our Stories Anthology Volume 2 classes as we prepare to launch Volume 2. Reach out to me at Phyllis@PhyllisJenkins.com, Phyllis@PhyllisJenkins.com, and come on, it's time for you to tell your story. Thank you again for joining us today, Marianne. It's been a pleasure. We will see each of you again next week. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. If you are interested in being on the show, go to phyllisjenkins.com. You can also sign up for the Powerful Journey Masterclass or the Speakers Academy at phyllisjenkins.com.